Good morning, everybody. If you don't have a name on your Zoom ID, please put your name in. That way I can call you by a name and not a string of digits, which happens every now and then. Or your initial. Now, if you want to go by initial, that's perfectly all right. I got a nephew who's TJ. So I've got Joanne, and I have someone that's RSUG. And if you want to put your name in, that'd be great. Jan.
Hi, this is Rochelle Suggs.
Rochelle, you want me to change your name, or can you rename yourself?
Change it.
Okay. And is that with an A or an O, the Rochelle?
A.
We'll do that right now. Rachelle?
Correct.
Super. I've known Rochelle's. Barb, Joyce, Leah, Patricia, Catherine, Dennis, Lisa, Kathy, Patricia. Maybe I said Patricia already. Valerie, Edmund, Zishan. Is that how you pronounce your name?
Yeah, it's Zishan.
Zishan. Wonderful. Welcome. And Maria. And we're going to get everyone gathering in here for a minute. 44 people had signed up for the class, so we might have a lot of folks this morning. And did Lina vanish already? She was in and out fast. Good to see you all. If you wouldn't mind muting yourself, except for when you speak, and you are very welcome to speak and ask questions. Also, if you could this morning, put into the chat up to three things you'd like to learn about Excel. And I'll see if I can tackle all of those this morning. This is a basic class for Excel. So we don't do lots of advanced stuff, but every now and then, a bunch of people ask for something a little advanced, and I'll see if I can do it for you. It's a beautiful sunny day where I am today, and it's going to be warm, but it is very, very windy. The Shenandoah Valley of Virginia, where I live, tends to get very windy weather every now and then. And we're having one of those days. Okay, so, Patricia wants charts, formulas, column headings. Very good. I probably won't get to charts today. That's a little advanced, though I love to make charts. I keep thinking I need to get a chart made to show you all in practice. That's more and more advanced. Formulas we will definitely hit, and column headings. Joanne wants everything I can offer. Well, that's easy. Same thing with Jan. Maria asks, is there an available free Excel formula and functions cheat sheet? That's a good question. A cheat sheet. The best cheat sheet I can think is a notepad and a piece of paper, and use your help. It will explain all the formulas and functions. That's the only way I can think of doing it. There's probably one online. I'll bet you could find one, but I'm old school. When I'm learning anything on a computer, and I have done this now for 25 years, I have a piece of paper next to me and write things down, because I usually engage and learn a little faster by writing it down. Barb says you learned an older version. Yeah, I've learned on an older version too. They're not that different. They're just a little faster and easier, and a whole lot more stuff under the hood than the older versions. Yeah, the first version I learned on was about 1995, and I've been upgrading with it ever since then. There was a version that came out about a dozen or 13 years ago that I did not like. It had this little palette to do a lot of stuff in, and it was like a little separate palette toolbar that popped down, and they got rid of that, went back to the ribbon. Lisa says you're hoping to learn how to prepare a budget checklist with columns and categories. We can do that. Maybe we'll even practice this morning by doing a sheet that has a bit of a budget. There is, by the way, I'm almost certain, a template for a budget. So when we're opening our documents, when we're opening today, and we're going to create a new one, Lisa, make sure that I show you the template for a budget, because I'm pretty sure there's one. If any of you have Google Sheets or can have a Gmail or Google account, you can use Google Sheets in a similar fashion, and they have a budget. And I'll be frank here, because I'm not selling anything for Excel. I use it a lot, but it's much more powerful than what most people need. And the Google Sheets is simpler, and you can share it and find it a little easier, and it automatically saves. So we're in Excel class today. We're going to learn some basics in Excel. I use it, but Google Sheets is also very simple to use. Do you have to have a computer in this class? Well, if you want to use Excel, you have to have a computer. You can watch the class, however, on your device. That's fine. By the way, I've got people now coming into class. This is pretty smart. I like what learners are doing. They're signing in on their phone or their tablet to Zoom and watching it in Zoom, and they're practicing with their computer. I think that's pretty slick. Right next. And maybe next week when I do a Sheets or a Google Docs class, I'll have somebody actually go to a computer, and I'll share a document with them, and you all can see how that works live. Again, anybody who's joined the last minute or two, we've got 22 people so far. If you would type into the chat what you hope to learn today. Also today, if you have questions while I'm presenting, please put them in the chat. I also pause usually after every 5 or 10 minutes of content and ask for questions. And just back to this question, you don't have to you can be watching on your iPad or something and seeing how I do this. So that's probably, and if you're on a computer, you may not be going into Excel and doing it yourself either. You could be. Anyway, no, you don't have to have a computer. So again, if you've just joined the last couple minutes, I've asked all learners to put into the chat up to 3 things they'd like to learn today about Excel. And I'll see if I can show you. It looks like all the things that have been put in here so far are things that I was going to cover. I've got a whole long list of stuff here that we can go over, including the 2 most important things that if you learn from these things from me today, they are the best things you can learn. And that's based on my experience. Make sure, I forgot to write one of them down. Let's see. It comes when we do functions, X plus check. I'm going to go ahead and start. So I'm going to share my screen with you. All right. Does everybody see a screen that says Excel Basics? Okay, good. Then we're all in the right place. Fabulous. I'm your guide, Russ Eanes. I'm from Harrisonburg, Virginia. I'm a writer, a walker, and a cyclist. I formerly was a book publisher, and when I was in that role, I love to help authors put their ideas in between the covers of a book. I love the energy I get and the wisdom I receive from working with all of you. So I'm really glad to see you all this bright, sunny morning. At least it's a bright, sunny morning where I am. I learned Excel, believe it or not, in the publishing business. I used it in many, for many functions. Marketing. I also was a finance director, learned to use stacked sheets. So where you might have 30 worksheets in a workbook, and could build pretty complicated systems with Excel. Like I said, Excel does a lot, and have always loved to use it. However, when I want to do simple things like a checklist or a budget or something like that, I do actually use Sheets in Google because it's a little simpler. Is there anybody here today? I'm going to stop sharing for just 1 minute, and I'll come back to this because I forgot with all these learners in the class. Anybody here, this is your first Get Set Up class? Raise your hand. Super, Andrea. I'm so honored that my class was the first one you wanted to take. I hope you learn enough today to make you want to keep coming back to Get Set Up. And if you aren't on screen, you can raise your hand virtually. Zishan, you're also new. And Rochelle, fabulous. Oh, I got 3 new learners here. Anybody's had a class with me before? You can either raise your hand virtually or just raise it in the screen. So no one's had me before. Okay, well, this will decide whether you take another class from me or not, whether I give you
one. This is Joanne. I've had several.
Oh, hi, Joanne. I recognize your name, of course.
And I have to, Russ, your last class on Monday, Lena.
Hi, Lena. Okay.
Yes.
Joyce, I thought I recognized you. Okay. I'm on. Oh, Joyce.
I'm Joanne.
Well, hi, Joanne. Yes, I remember you. You were on screen right at the very beginning. And
Yes.
Joyce Gaborel, is that how you pronounce your name?
Gabrielle.
Gabrielle. I thought I
Gabrielle.
recognized you, Joyce. So great to see all the repeats. Okay, well, see, everybody else, I wasn't so bad. They came back for another class of mine. I'm going to return to sharing my screen. Just a little quick thing about Get Set Up. We help you learn useful things from people like you so you can learn to do wonderful things. We learn from each other. Ideally, we can see you and your cameras are on. You can request a recording after the class of this so you can see it again. You'll email help@getsetup.io. I will make sure that email address is in the notes. If you're joining by live stream, the best way to participate is to join us and register for a class. And by the way, Get Set Up's not paid to promote any specific product. So unfortunately, I guess Microsoft isn't paying us mucho big bucks to show Excel, but Excel is really the world's most popular spreadsheet application or program. Our agenda today, we're going to talk about what Excel is and how to get access. We're going to see how to create and save Excel workbooks. We're going to learn to use some simple formulas and functions, and we're going to learn how to enter, format, and copy information. Excel, as I said, is a powerful spreadsheet program that you can manage and massage data and build all sorts of complicated formulas. Hang on, where did I go? I skipped way ahead. It's been the undisputed market leader in spreadsheet programs for a long time. And it's true, Google Sheets is gaining in popularity. That's because Excel does more stuff than most people need. It's like if you just have to go to the grocery store, you really don't need a Chevy Corvette to get there because there's a lot of power under the hood of Excel. You can access or get Excel through Microsoft 365. That is a subscription service. I pay $6.99 a month, or you can pay it annually, $69.99 for the year. You also get Word, PowerPoint, OneDrive, a whole bunch of other stuff that comes with it. It's also part of the free Office online pack. There is supposedly a free Office online package. I have never used that, so I'm going to skip over that because I can't tell you how that works. At this point, there's really no use in me showing any more of a slideshow or presentation about Excel because I'm just going to take you right into Excel itself. And I will open mine on my computer. I'm working on a Mac, so I have Office 365 for Mac. And my dock is on the right-hand side. And let's open. And we're going to skip what's new in Excel. So does everybody see a big menu here that has Excel in the center? This is what it looks like when you start Excel. And I'm going to make a new document. So I'm going to start by going here to new. But before we go, I'm going to mention what was it Lisa asked me about the budgets. So similarly to when you're working in Google, any kind of the Google apps, there are a whole bunch of templates, and that's right in the opening page. So there's all sorts of stuff you can do. Here's your most simple templates, lists, welcome to Excel. Let's see, let's see if there's one here. More templates. There's a budget right there. That one's got a fancy chart with it. There's a family budget one there. I haven't opened these, so they're worth playing with, going in and seeing if they suit your needs. The worst thing that happen is you can just say, no, I don't want that, and you delete it. So this is if you want to do one of those templates. You can create a calendar, an annual financial report for yourself, I guess. You can create invoices. So there's lots of neat stuff you can do. I am, however, just going to go back home, and I'm going to show you how to do a new one. And you just go over here to the left, you click on new. And this is the Excel workbook. I'm going to click on that, and it opens. And so this is called an Excel workbook, and it is filled with sheets. And they're down here at the bottom. Down here, sheets, and this is the workbook. We'll make that so that it fills the whole screen. Okay, so everyone should see that. And the way the Excel interface is it's just these columns and rows with cells that you can put in data. You can put formulas in those cells. You can format those cells. You can format formulas. There's all sorts of things you can do. Someone asked, is there a way to look at this without the grid of cells? I don't know if there is, but you need to have this grid to be able to see what you're doing. So right now, it automatically starts up here in 1A. Row 1, column A. That's where it starts. And so I'm just going to put a data in row 1A. I put in the number 1, and automatically by hitting return, it drops down 1. Now, here's a cool thing that you can do in Excel, and I really like this. You can operate what's called the handle, the fill handle right here at the bottom. Now, this is kind of hard to see, and my eyes are older than they were when I was younger. And so I'm going all the way down here. You may not see it on your screen. The bottom right-hand corner, there's a slider bar that goes from 0 to 100%. And I'm just going to make this a little bit bigger so we can read. Everybody see that get bigger? So that bottom right-hand corner is where you'll find that slider bar. You can make it huge if you want. I mean, that's so big that, well, you can easily see it, but if you want to have a whole lot of rows of data, it might be a little bit too big. I won't do more than about 14, 15 rows of data. So anyway, that's how that works. Now it's much, much easier to see, isn't it? So there's this little thing here in the bottom, a little tiny square in the bottom right-hand corner. That's called the fill handle. And that simply takes what's in one cell and it replicates it to other cells. So watch it happen. I grab it by clicking on it. I've got a plus. That's where my cursor is. And I drag it downwards. I'm going to drag it down to 15. And it has copied everything in there. Isn't that neat? And if you want to just copy stuff, I can also do it this way if I want. I can drag it across here like that. The fill handle works both directions. I'm going to undo that because I want to put other stuff there. However, that's not the only thing that the fill handle does. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to undo that. I'll go back to here. So I'm going to grab that fill handle. I'm going to pull it down to row 15. Now, do you all see that below where I've stopped in the right-hand corner, this is actually a little drop-down menu appears. Does everybody see that? Doesn't always show on screen. Now, there are some different things that it says it can do with that fill handle. And it's checked on copy cells. What I like is you can click on this thing that's fill series, and now it's just numbered from 1 to 15. I'm going to undo that, and I'm going to start up here, and I'm going to do like this. I'm going to grab it, and I'm going to start to pull down, and now I'm going to switch it into fill series, and I'm going to keep, now it's set there. I'm going to keep on pulling it all the way down to 15. So that way you can just automatically populate data with cells with data, and it just copies what you've got there. That fill handle does all sorts of neat things. Let's say you want to have A, okay. Well, let's do the fill handle. Let's do that down. Oops. Grab it, pull it down. That didn't work. Let's do that again. put in the letter A. Now I'm going to grab that little fill handle and pull down. And if I go fill, well, okay. It apparently didn't understand that I was trying to do the alphabet. So we'll skip that one. Sometimes that happens. If I were to make this one B, let's experiment here and let's see if I highlight these two and make that A, B, if it'll fill it in. Nope, it just copies A, B. Okay. I thought maybe I could play with that. Never done that before. But there's all sorts of things you can do with that fill handle. You can also do this. If I were to put up here 2 like that, and I were to hit fill series, it would do 2, 3, 4, 5. So it starts at 2. However, if I were to do this, let me delete that data, and I made this 2, 4, so that I'm doing even numbers, and then I highlight both of those and pull the fill handle down, it'll fill it in by even numbers. So it has a great logic to it. You can use this, I'll show you later, with formulas. It'll copy formulas across. So it's very powerful. It speeds up your work. I'm going to pull that all the way down there. So now we've got column A, column B, populated with data. You can do the same thing with dates. So 1/1/2021. You can do this and you can pull down this. And so it'll see how it's filling the series. It's putting the dates in. So I've got the 1st through the 15th of January. It'll copy dates. It's a great tool to use. So I really like just remember that the fill handle, that's one thing you come away with today, come away with that little thing called the fill handle. And if you were to search on help or go out on Google, Google the question, how can you use the fill handle with Excel? It might even give you more stuff than I know, but this is where I use it for this kind of populating data in something. All right. So, what we've got is just some basic data in cells, and we've got some dates for it. Now, let's say, you know what? I really don't like the fact that I want my dates, the column with dates over that way. I don't want it there. So I can grab that. Oops. Oh, it's not letting me do that. Let's see. I'm going to go over here and I'm going to insert. So here's how I can insert a row. So there's a big up. If I'm in the home ribbon, I go to insert. I can do insert sheet columns, and that just put a column to the left there. Now I should be able to grab that and pull that all the way over there by making a blank column. So that's just entering data. Now let me give you a quick trip through the menus here. This will just take a second. Like all Microsoft products, you have drop-down menus up here, like the file, the edit, the view, the insert, the format, tools, all sorts of things you can do here. And if you click on any of these, it'll give you options of what you can do. So you can do a new file. You can open an existing one, and open a recent one. So it'll find out recent ones that you had open. You can close it. You can save it, save it as. So all sorts of things you can do. Most people will end up working down here and what Microsoft calls the ribbon. And you also have different ribbon options. So this is the home ribbon, and it's got your basic formatting of your text, both your font and your font size, boldness. You can fill cells. So let's say we want to highlight B1, we can go to fill and we just make that yellow. That one is now. So if you want to, sometimes if you're sending a spreadsheet to somebody, you want to highlight some data, or if I want to highlight all of those, I go up here to my fill. See how it's got my options for colors, and I can say no fill. Okay, that took that away, but now I do want to fill it. Let's make it orange. Okay, I like orange. So now row 1 is highlighted. That's what that little thing does, that little fill. And you've got your other standard formatting where you can make things justified left, justified right. You can make them centered. You can wrap text. I'll show you that in a minute. And then this is how you can format. It's a quick formatting of how the data is presented in your cells, whether they're numbers or percentages or dollars. I'll come to all that in a minute. And then over here, the other thing that I use the most is the insert and delete. And you can insert columns, rows. You can delete columns or rows or individual cells. Also coming over here, you'll see we'll come to this function here in a minute, the sigma. So this is the home ribbon, and this is really where you do most of your work. You can also sort your spreadsheet up here. Lots and lots and lots of options. You can change the ribbon. So that's the home ribbon. There's an insert ribbon. I'm just going to click through these fast so you can see what they do. There's a draw ribbon. There's a page layout ribbon, formulas ribbon, data ribbon. So each of these things has more icons of various things you can do. But again, most of the time we're just working in the home ribbon. And so that's what all these are. These are the headers to give you the different ribbons. Now, in just a second, I'm going to go through and I'm going to put some headers on these columns into row 1. But let me pause here and see if anybody's got any questions about anything I've done so far, including the showing you the menus or the fill handle. Go ahead and unmute yourself and just throw in your question.
Hi, Andrea here. So I don't have the draw on my toolbar. Is it underneath something else? Mine goes file, home, insert, page layout, and I don't see the little draw options. Is that under something else? And actually, I don't have a Mac, so I'm wondering if your ribbon is ever so slightly different because you have a Mac.
It more likely has to do with the version of Excel I have or Office. Are you working in Office 365 or an earlier version?
Yes, I am.
Okay. There might be a way in which you can. I actually don't. This is how it came to me in default. There probably is. I'm sure there's a way. I shouldn't say probably. There's a way you can add to the ribbons up here, and you need to find out how to add the draw ribbon to it. And I don't see right away a way to do that, but that's a very good question.
It's a minor question. I was just curious.
No, that's okay. That's okay. It's a very good question. I was trying to see if there was a preference up here that might show how. There you go, ribbon and toolbar. You've got home. See down. Did you see what I just did? I'm going to show it to you again. I went up here to Excel preferences, and I clicked on the ribbon and toolbar right there. And now it's got the things that you want to put in there. So I've got insert, draw, page that they're all checked. That means that it's showing all of those ribbons. If there were one that I never used, actually, I don't ever use draw, I could uncheck it and it would disappear. Why don't I just do that? I'm going to uncheck draw. And I'm going to save that. Okay, now my draw ribbon has disappeared. No, it hasn't.
No, it hasn't.
Yeah, there it is. Now it disappeared. I had to close the preference window. Okay. Good question. Any more questions on anything so far? And I'm just kind of throwing in data here just for fun. Okay, let's go in here. And I actually, that's, I don't really want that formatted. So I'm going to go back to no fill, click on that. Now I want to put in a header row up here that I can label these columns. So I come up here to insert, and it automatically inserted a row because I had highlighted a whole row. Microsoft products have logics to them, and Excel as a logic says, oh, you've got a whole row highlighted. You must want to insert a row. So it inserted a row. By the same, and I got there by going, if you go far out to the left where the numbers of the rows are listed and click on that, it'll highlight the whole row. If I click just far to the right, it just does highlights the cell. Same thing with columns. I'll highlight the whole row. So if I were to go over here and hit insert, it would insert a column. And you all know in working with Microsoft products, you've got your undo and redo arrows up here. So I don't actually want that column in there. I'm going to get rid of that column. Now let's go in here and we're going to give names to these columns. So this one is going to be called date. And this one is going to be called number. And this one is going to be called quantity. I'm just making these up. They may not necessarily make sense. I'm going to bring up a spreadsheet in a little while that makes a little more sense. So now I've got headers up there. And, you know, I'd like to have those stand out a little bit. So I want to make them bold. So I click here on the B. And maybe I want them to be a little bit bigger than the data. So I'm going to make them 14 point. So they're a little bit bigger. So now when I'm reading that, it looks like that. That's a very simple way to add headers to your columns. And you can do the same thing down here. You can add headers to your rows if you want to. Okay, now let me show you how you can do some very simple formulas. So I'm going to scroll down here to row 17. And I'm going to title this one total. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to sum up everything in this column B. So if the first thing you learned was the fill handle, the next thing you're going to learn is about formulas. I'm going to go up here, I'm going to click on it, and the first one it's going to give me is sum, which is the most common formula. And it automatically knows that it's supposed to do the first 16 rows. And you'll notice that because row 1 has no data in it, it didn't include that one. If you try to include that in there, it won't make sense to it, and it will tell you, it will give you an error message, but it'll say, okay, you're doing a sum. You're probably doing everything above me. And if you have one of these cells without data in it, it will stop at that one and only do the ones below it. Okay, so this is my formula. I'm adding them up. Cells 2 through 16. There's two ways that I know that. The first way is down here where I put that formula, which is in B17. It says what's in this cell equals a sum of B2 colon B16. That little colon, the two dots, means everything in between B2 and B16. Okay, just those two. That whole range between those two. Another place that you can see what's in that cell is up here. And this is what I call this is the formula bar. And the formula bar shows you whatever is in any cell. So this shows me the exact same thing. It's the sum of B2 to B16. Now here's the other thing to learn is just the green check or the red X. If that formula is correct, just give it a green check. Done. It is now giving me a sum of everything above. And it no longer shows down here the formula. It actually shows the result. But up here, the formula is shown. I'm going to click up one cell above it to B16, and you can see the number 15 is in that formula bar. So this little place right here, the formula bar, is where you see formulas written, but you also see what the data is in a cell. And I actually do a lot of my entering, and if I have to go in and edit data in a cell, I tend to do it up here because it's a little bit easier to work with things up here. Now, here's where this cell, the fill handle comes in handy. So I've made row 17 a total, and I also want it to total column C. So I grab the fill handle down here and I just drag it over one more. And now if I go up here, it says it's the sum of C2 to C16, which is correct. So I've just pulled that formula across there. It takes the same formula that's in there and it applies it to the next column. Very handy way to summarize a whole lot of things. Now, let's say I want to know an average of what's in those. So I'm going to go here, and 18 is going to be average. Okay, so now B18, that cell, I want to have a formula in there that's an average. And again, I go over here to my sigma, which is my functions or formulas. And the first one is sum. The second one is average. I click on that. That's what I want. And you'll see now it says, okay, you want to average everything from B2 to B17. Oh, well, no, I don't, because I want to average B2 to B16 because 17 is the total of all the things in that column. I don't want an average. I don't want that thrown in the average. So now I have to edit that. So there's two ways I can do it. One way is I can go back up here and I can write B2 to B16 in the formula bar. I can edit it there. Or I can just go up here with my mouse and I can grab the row of data that I want it to be. which is 2 through 16. That's correct. Now it says B2 to B16. That's right. I just want that data. So there's two ways you can do it. You can do it there, or you can click up here into the formula bar and you can move your cursor around and you can edit which cells you want to have. If that's correct, green check, done. So the average of everything in that column is 8. Well, let's go ahead and let's drag that formula over to the next column. Okay, the average of the next column is 16. So now I've built formulas into 4 cells, and I've been able to copy the formula from one cell to another. You can also copy and paste it using the same copy and paste method. That would be in a more advanced class, but it will do the same thing. But the fill handle is a real simple way just to logically move data from move a formula from one column or row to another if it's the same type of formula. Now let me pause there and see if anybody has a question about these formulas that I put in so far.
No questions.
Everybody see that? You want me to show you any of that again? I'm going to do some more formulas, so we're going to keep going. Yes, Joyce.
I have
No.
a question about, oh, sorry.
Did you
No,
have a
wasn't
question,
me.
Joyce? Okay, your hand is up. That's why. No problem, Joyce.
It's still up. Oh, I'm
I
sorry.
lowered your hand. Don't worry.
Oh,
Someone else
okay.
had a question. Go ahead.
Oh, I have a question about the fill handles. I seem to have trouble grabbing the fill handle. I mean, I understand the logic of it, but it doesn't seem, so do I have to select it first, or I don't know. I'm
Well,
having trouble with grabbing it.
yeah, you have to learn just to get your cursor right on it. The key thing is that you're going to see when you're on the fill handle, you should see the plus appear. Then that tells you that it is now grab that fill handle. You also might try doing what I'm doing, which is making your screen bigger. Or the data appear bigger. I like to work with it as big as I can get on the screen so I can see what I'm doing. Let me practice with it some more by doing some more formulas. So we're going to make this one, we're going to subtract this. We're going to make this column subtraction. Okay. So I'm going to do another formula. I want this column to be a new formula. Now, if I'm going to do subtraction, I'm going to subtract column C from, or let's do it the other way around. Let's subtract column B from column C. Otherwise, we'll just have a whole lot of negative numbers. So you do that by building what is actually a sum. So it asks for a sum. Now, I don't want to add those two. I actually want to subtract them. So I want to, well, this is going to do it on mix and say, it's going to subtract B2 minus C2. Now that's going to be a negative number, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with putting a negative number in there. Let's just do that for the heck of it. I go up here, click on the green check box. Yep. 1 minus 2 is -1. So let me go over here and show you. I'm going to grab that fill handle. See what I'm out here is kind of a big plus. As soon as I get over that, hover over that fill handle, the plus turns black, and I'm going to pull it all the way down here. And now I've made subtraction. I've taken that subtraction formula and I've copied it to all these cells. Let's say that isn't the way I want to do the subtraction. Like, oops, no, I want to subtract the smaller number from the bigger number. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete everything in that column. And I'm going to go up here and I'm going to say, I want a sum, and I want to do, you know what I did? I had the whole column highlighted. So it pretty smartly put that formula on all of them. I just want to build it into one because I'm going to do that fill handle for you. This time I want a formula, a sum that's going to be, but I want it to be not B2 minus C2. I want it to be C2, and then I put the minus in here, and then I click on the cell I want to subtract from it, which is B2. So now I've got C2 minus B2. Everybody see that? Now I've changed the order of the subtraction. It's also up here in my formula bar. That's correct. So now I check it, and now that is 1. Go over here. My fill handle goes from like a white plus or cross to a black one. And I just drag that all the way down like that. Let's say I want to do multiplication. So again, I go up here to my sum, and now it's not really sure what I want to do. What do you want to do? I do want to do sum. How many? It's got 3 rows. How many do you want to do? Well, actually, what I want to do is I want to do B, and I'm going to put in here the multiplication sign, which is an asterisk, times. So B2 times C2, and then I click green checkbox yes, and I drag that formula all the way down here, and now I have multiplication of those two. If I want to do division, spell it right, Russ. And notice how it followed through in the formatting here. It's got the same font, the same bold, because I did I formatted the whole row ahead of time before I put any data in. So I'm going to do division again, sum, and I'm going to do, I want cell B2 divided by, so that's the forward slash, and then I choose the other cell I want to divide into it, that one. I green check it, and I've got 0.5, and I go all the way down here, and I've got those numbers. Look at that, they're always half. Okay, now let me show you some things I can do with the data I put in here. Let's say I want that division cell to be represented as percentages. So the number in every one of those cases is 0.5. So I highlight them all like that. And I go up here and I find this little percentage symbol, click it like that, and it makes them all 50%. Now let's look at this row right here, this column, the one that says multiply. Notice that I've got some numbers down here. The last one is in the thousands, but it's 28800. Maybe that's not so easy to read. So what I want that to read actually is I want to have a comma in place. So I go up here, everyone see the comma? I put the comma in place, and now it's built out with a comma. So I can see it's 28,800. I don't like those decimal points. I don't need them. So I go up here, and one of these says decrease decimals, and the other one is increase decimals. So I click on the one that says decrease decimals. You can make it go to 1 decimal point. Let's say you want to go make it out to 3 decimal points. They're all 0, so that really doesn't matter. I'm just going to, and for the sake of the width of my column, I'm just going to make it down to a single decimal point, or sorry, 0 decimal points. So that's how I formatted that. Now let's say that I want the first one here to be, I want this row right here to be formatted as money in currency. So I go up here and I've got a little dollar sign, and now those all appear as dollars. And if you have like $1.25, you would put 1.25. Of course, it would do that. So now I formatted the data because of the type of data that I have in there. So this is going to be dollars, and this one is also dates. So it kind of knows it's dates, but I can go up here and it says, yep, date. And I have different options. I have a long date or a short date. This is a long date right there. No way, that's way too much data in there. I don't want that to be long. So let's go down here. Let's make that the short date. Took it back to where it was. Now, notice how it left that column real wide. If I go up to the header here, whereas A, B, and C, and I double click on it, it automatically shortens the width of the column. You can do that on all of your columns like this. I'm double clicking up here on the line between each of the columns. Notice how I made that one a little bit bigger, made that one a little smaller, that one a little bit smaller. And you often want to do that because of the need to get more columns in before it begins to run off the right edge of your page. So that little double click of your columns. You can also, if you want to just manually make it bigger, go up here and grab it. You can pull it all the way out like that if you want to. But I like to double click to let it automatically choose. And it defaults to make the column as wide as the widest thing in the whole column. In this case, it's the word subtraction. Okay, any questions so far about anything that I've done?
I have a question, maybe not something you've done, but suppose you're doing a chart and you want to give the chart, the whole chart, a name. How do you put that, center that so that the header, the name of the chart, like Team A, and you're making a chart of all the members of Team A. How do you center the header to say Team A?
When you are doing a chart, it depends on how you do a chart. I tend to put charts on separate sheets, but doesn't matter whether you do that or not. It usually, it gives you the choice for how you want to format that. So what's the title you want to give the chart and where do you want to put the header? So when you're doing charts, it would do that. It would give you the opportunity to see how to format it.
So this is not what you use if you're going to do a chart. This is not the page.
No, you'd have to do your charts. Yeah. And that's advanced. So I'm not going to get into charts in this class today, but it's a very good, the charts is very good stuff to learn, and charts are a whole lot easier than they were decades ago when I first used Excel. They're much more intuitive.
Okay.
Russ, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Russ, if you wanted to change the date automatically like you did, and you wanted it to be like January 1st, February 1st, March 1st, can you also do that with the drawdown?
Yeah, you can. You go here to this, and you're going to choose, I believe you're going to go to more number functions, and you go into date. And now you got a whole wide range of things you can put in here.
Oh, you do this, so she have March 12th.
Do you see that right there? What
Yes,
I'm doing?
I do. Yes, I do.
So like, let's say you want to make it 14th March 12. It'll do that. Now it's got 1st January 21, which is actually kind of a nice way that I like to format it like that. And the reason I like to format it with the January in there, for example, is that very quickly differentiates for your eye that column are dates.
Okay. Thank you.
Russ?
Sure.
Sorry.
Yes.
Russ, there's something that I perhaps didn't get at the beginning. To format the page, it's just about grabbing the fill handle and taking it as far on the page as you want to.
To format the data on the page, yes.
No,
As
to
long as-
format the entire page before you get started.
Well, let's see. So were you asking like how I would format this
Yes,
row?
right. Yes.
Well, what I did here was I went up here and I didn't use the fill handle. I set my font and my font size and my bold. If I want to make it italic, I do it by clicking on the I.
That's not what I'm asking.
Okay.
You mentioned that you didn't have to do anything to any of the other columns because you had already formatted the page. So when you grab the fill handle, it's taking it all the way because you formatted your page already. Is that what you said?
It's formatted the column. Like in this case up here on row 1, I have formatted the row.
Okay.
And
then
go ahead.
And then, so having formatted that row, I'm starting on row 2, and I'm going down to row 15 like you did. It's just a matter of pulling the fill handle all the way down.
Yes, it is.
And that would format the entire 15.
Well, yeah, and format might not be
the correct word.
I like to say I massage the data in there. I get the data to do what I want it to do. And I'll give you an example. If I go over here and I put 1, 3, 5, 6, 9. So I've got all sorts of random numbers in here that don't make any, they're not in a logic sequence. Excel would have a very hard time figuring out how to do any kind of other particular formatting to do unless I just format the whole column as numbers. The fill handle really won't do me much good here. But anyway, the fill handle is good for massaging data that you're trying to do in a certain sequence, or taking formulas and pulling them across rows so that they're always seen. I'll show you something here. If I take this, remember this, it says total right here.
Right. Uh-huh.
Well, actually, if I were to pull that over here, well, that
Just
didn't make
take it all the
sense.
way
What it
across.
did. Well, forget what I just did. I was thinking it would do something that didn't do it. Often if the formula doesn't make sense, Excel won't try to do anything with it. More questions. I hope I answered that question.
No, I'm still not sure.
Okay.
You wanted to work with columns A to H.
Yes.
Or
A to F
H.
is what I have. Yeah.
All right. How do you decide that? How do you tell Excel that those are the columns you want to work with? That's the question I'm trying to have answered.
Well, it will.
Do I have to do anything before I start?
Yeah, you don't have to do anything before you start. Let me show you something, because this is something I was going to show you. Is I can create another sheet here. So this is sheet 1, and by the way, I double clicked on the name, and now it just says, I'm going to call this one practice, CTICE. Okay, now I want to add a sheet, so I click on plus. So here's another sheet, and I'm going to make that those cells.
Okay.
So if I'm putting my data in, so if I format the first row, because this is where I'm going to put headers, I can say I want to make that, 14 point. I want to change that from Calibri to, let's just do American typewriter. Okay, and now whatever I enter in there, so if I say help, it looks like that.
It's gonna look
If I
like
put
that.
in there date, it'll look like that. And that whole column will be like that. But as I'm working down here with, here's another thing I can do. I can put January. All right. Let's say I'm setting up a budget for the months. I can pull that fill handle down. See, do you see it below there on the left? Next to my fill handle, it's telling me what's going to be in there. October, November, December. So there's a year.
Right.
That's how I use the fill handle to fill in the data.
Okay, got it. I got
another question. Okay, so what I've just done is I've just added a sheet, by the way. All right. And now I'm going to call, I'm formatting my second sheet. So the first one says practice. This one says sheet 2. I'm going to open another spreadsheet and show you how you can sort your data. We're almost out of time. So let me just do this real quickly. File, open recent. I've got one called sales. These are sales of a book I do. You should see here, it has, let me make this a little bit bigger so we can read it. Okay. These are book sales. August. These are book sales by month, and it's sorted by, it's alphabetized the date here. Okay. Now let's say I want, these are 5 months. Obviously alphabetizing dates doesn't really make any sense, does it? What I want to do though, is I want to sort it by the numbers of units that I sold. So I click over here to column B, and what I've got set up here is my sort filter right here. Okay. So I've clicked on a filter. If I click off of that, they go away. But if you click on filter, it now brings up a little drop-down menu at the head of each column, and you can select then which column you want to select. You want to sort all of your data by. I want to do it by numbers of books sold, and it says you want to do that ascending or descending. Descending would be the highest to the lowest. So I want to know, well, what was the month that was the highest? So I clicked on descending. And now I've got it. So January of 2020 had the most numbers of ebooks sold, 49. Down to August of 29 was 1. So that's how that works. If I want to do it by, that was ebooks, I want to do it by paperbacks, and I want it to be descending. I click on that header right here, this little drop down. And now it resorts everything, and it pulls these dates back in to the correct row that they're supposed to be in. So that's a way you can do sorting very quickly. It's over here, right next to your formula bar is this little thing that says A to Z. And you can quickly sort something by just clicking A to Z, but I like to put filters on, and then it gives you a choice of any of the columns that you want to use to be the one to sort your data by. Show you one other thing. I can move this. Let's see. Well, I won't show you that because that gets too complicated. Any more questions? Because we're almost out of time, everybody. You've been a great class, but I want to make sure if there's anything I've shown you. By the way, in all Microsoft products, if you have more than one file open, you go to your window menu. Let's go back to book one. That's the one we were playing around in before. And down here, we're on the sheet 2. We're just going to call this one dates just for the fun. I double click on that. I change the name of that. And it can tab between different sheets. More questions before we end the class. And I'm going to check the chat to see if there were any questions you had put in there. Let's see. And the question is, can you take this class multiple times? You sure can. In fact, I do this class twice a week. I do it Monday, and I don't have next Monday's date in, but it's probably at 4:00, and I will probably do it again next Friday. I don't have my schedule down. You are welcome to come back again and again. And you can throw me a curveball next time. I had someone throw me a curveball last time, and I went out and found that after the class was over.
Is the class at the same time?
It should be. There's another way you can check is you can go in, and if you find my name as a guide on a class and click on me as a guide, you should be able to see all the classes that I teach, and it will show you when they are scheduled.
Okay. Thank you. This is a great class.
Well, I hope you all got something out of this. There is a more advanced class that Wade teaches it. Wade's a great instructor. So right now you can look for Wade's class. And I have this funny feeling like the class was yesterday that he does his advanced class. But again, if you go into the tech section of classes on the Get Set Up class schedule, you should be able to find what day the advanced class is. And I would do the same thing with Wade. I would say, hey, something we didn't cover last time I'd like to do. Like something somebody asked me was how you can do what's called freeze panes, how you can freeze the header row right here so that when you're scrolling through it, it doesn't disappear. And you do that under the view. You click on something that says freeze top row, that little thing right there. And now look what happens when I scroll up and down that data. It keeps my top row in place. Oh, that's so much easier when you have 30 or 40 rows. You're trying to remember what was in each of those columns.
Yeah.
Well, I hope I didn't go too fast for people. Sometimes I go too fast and sometimes I go too slow. It all depends on how much you know. Come back next week. Again, I said I have a class Monday, Friday. We'll do it again and again. I don't mind teaching the same thing to the same people. Excel takes lots of practice. I've practiced it a lot. Those templates might be great for some of the things you want to do. And I can really recommend them for standard things that you might want to do. They have charts built in, so they're kind of cool. Maybe sometime we'll do a charts class in Excel. Wouldn't that be fun? I love to make charts. They're neat. I have to spend some time practicing to get some data in so I can show you what the charts look like, but I've got some great data I can put in. I want to thank you all for coming to this class. I'm going to do one last thing. I don't always do this. Let's go back to that slide, and I'm going to show you this right here. And that is related class. Yep, the class is called Excel Intermediate. And there is also Microsoft OneDrive. So if you have Office 365, you have OneDrive, which has lots of storage space. Look at that. I don't put my next classes in here because I haven't figured out my schedule for the next 2 weeks yet. But I do lots of classes on Google Sheets, Google Docs, Google Slides. If you want to learn how to use Google Sheets, come to my class next week. This week I did it on Tuesday, so check in to see if I have it next Tuesday, but if not, it'll be a different day. Very similar to Excel, but easier. And a lot of people find that most of what they need can be done in Google Sheets. Thanks, everybody, for being with us. I sure hope you got something good out of the class. You'll get an
Yes, thank
email
you.
following up in this class. You can give me feedback. You can say, you did a terrible job. Please do
Yeah.
this better next time. I get those emails and I like to learn from them. So I appreciate seeing all of you, and everybody have a great afternoon.
You
You
too.
too. Stay safe. Have a good weekend.
Yes, you all too. Bye.
Thank you.
I forgot one last
Thanks,
thing.
Russ.
I forgot one last thing. 2:30 today is get to know your guide. So if you want to get to know me better, you can come to the social hour at 2:30. You can bring a beer or a glass of wine, whatever you have. Depends what time of day it is. If it's still morning, you might be too early to have a drink. But we'll be doing a social hour at 2:30.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.